Welcome to the debate. Today, we're examining the engineering philosophy behind the WP Optimal State Pro Optimization Suite. This is, an extremely powerful tool for WordPress database performance. And the developers clearly aimed for both maximum functionality and maximum safety.
Yeah, and the documentation certainly backs that up. The technical execution it's incredibly complex and very, very detailed.
Right, and that core tension we see in the source material leads us to our central question. Does the plugin's sophisticated, multi-layered safety architecture genuinely justify marketing it as a simple one-click optimization tool for, every user? Or does its inherent power and the technical vigilance required mean we should frame it primarily as an advanced toolkit for professionals? I'm going to argue that the robust, almost over-engineered safety protocols successfully mitigate the risk, making that one-click use appropriate for novice users who just need reliable maintenance.
And I'll be arguing that the non-negotiable critical warnings, the existence of high-risk advanced features, and the dependencies on complex server configurations fundamentally define this plugin as a tool that demands professional expertise. The operation itself, direct manipulation of the database, means the ultimate safety of the site really rests on the user's specialized knowledge, no matter how many backups the system makes.
So my position rests entirely on this philosophical partitioning of the system. I think the developers really succeeded in creating a tool that offers both one-click simplicity and granular control by building this kind of internal safety shield. The architecture's, explicitly designed to support novice users. The manual promises they can get 90% of the benefit with zero risk just by using the built-in scheduler or that main one-click optimization button. Think of the safety measures as a non-negotiable part of the engine that allows the simple UI to even exist. For instance, before any critical action, the plugin performs an SHA 256 checksum verification. It's just there to guarantee the integrity of the backups against something like network corruption. More critically, before any database optimization, it creates a safety backup with server timeout-proof chunked processing. The user doesn't need to worry about the SQL commands. They just have to trust that the system is handling the complexity. The complexity isn't a burden to the user. It's the solution for the user. I can see why you think this power equates to professional use only, but the system is designed precisely so the user just sees the easy button, because all the intricate, high-risk processes, like integrity checks and failure prevention, are running invisibly in the background.
Okay, that engineering defense is certainly strong. And I agree, the level of defensive coding it's high. However, that defense really only holds up inside the plugin's controlled environment. I maintain this product is fundamentally an advanced toolkit because we are talking about direct, low-level manipulation of the single most critical component of any WordPress site, the database. The inherent risk is why the manual opens with a critical first warning, always back up. It's because the operations are specifically defined as irreversible. If this is truly a simple one-click tool for every user, why does the documentation dedicate entire chapters to explaining the technical why behind each feature? It explicitly details the underlying architecture, the specific SQL commands. It's all aimed at developers. This suggests the real target audience is one that needs to understand the mechanics, not just trust a button. The inherent risk is why the manual opens with a critical first warning. Furthermore, the features that deliver the highest performance impact, the whole reason a user buys the Pro version, they absolutely require judgment that only an expert can provide. I'm thinking specifically of the Optimize Auto-Loaded Options tool. When the auto-load data size gets over a megabyte, this tool is critical for performance gains, but using it requires differentiating between essential data and, non-essential bloat. A beginner has no reliable way to make that distinction, even with the exclusion list they provide. We are talking about giving a novice a tool capable of instantly breaking their website. That's a power tool demanding informed consent, not a beginner's utility.
Well, let's focus on that scenario where that power tool, or even the basic function, goes wrong. If the one-click process fails, let's say due to a server timeout, the restore mechanism is the ultimate test of the plugin's architecture. This is where the plugin achieves what I call functional simplicity through sheer complexity. It guarantees zero-risk data integrity through its 4-phase safety restore. The crucial elements here are the isolation and the commitment. So phase 2 involves isolated staging in temporary tables. The changes are built and tested in a safe container. Then phase 4 executes the critical switch via an atomic swap transaction. This transactional logic is the philosophical core. It guarantees an all-or-nothing outcome. It prevents that common database catastrophe where a partial write leaves your site with tables from both the old and the new states. The old tables only disappear once the new tables are fully verified and ready.
The source material explicitly confirms that if the atomic transaction fails, the database engine rolls back all renames instantly. If the entire script fails mid-process, the system is guaranteed to trigger an asynchronous rollback to the initial safety backup. All of that complexity is deployed to ensure chaos is averted without any user intervention.
I agree that the engineering of the atomic swap is impressive. It prevents that state of, existential database limbo. But I just don't buy that the safety net is truly foolproof for the beginner. I come at it from a different way. The developer's confidence in their internal architecture it vanishes the moment the plugin ecosystem breaks down. The mere necessity of having a detailed troubleshooting FAQ section titled, "My restore failed and the rollback also failed," that fundamentally contradicts the notion of a zero-risk one-click experience. We're not talking about a routine failure here. We are talking about a cascade failure. And when the system truly collapses, the solution provided in the manual is, frankly, terrifying for a typical novice. The user is instructed to first use FTP, which means navigating outside the WordPress dashboard, logging into a server control panel to find the safety-restore.sql.gz file. Then they have to manually import this compressed SQL file via phpMyAdmin, a separate, powerful application designed for direct database interaction. This is a highly technical procedure. It requires knowledge of compressed files, server paths, and executing raw database imports. This proves that the ultimate contingency, the final layer of safety, relies entirely on advanced knowledge of server systems and external tools. The plugin guarantees success inside its own controlled environment, sure, but the moment that environment fails, the user is immediately reliant on professional skills. That's the definition of an advanced tool.
You're focusing exclusively on the 1 in a million scenario, though. That's the extreme tail end of the error curve, and you're using it to negate the accessibility that the automated processes provide for the vast majority of users. While manual recovery is a professional task, the fact that 99% of failures are handled automatically by the asynchronous rollback means the tool is safe for routine scheduled maintenance. The plugin abstracts the risk away from 99% of its operational time. Furthermore, let's consider the actual material that the one-click process safely manages. Most database bloat, things like post-revisions, spam comments, and, crucially, expired transients, are data types that can be cleaned up automatically with negligible risk.
Wait, let's just clarify what transients are, since we keep mentioning them. They're just temporary data cached by plugins in WordPress to speed things up. They're supposed to expire, but often they don't, and they just become bloat.
Exactly. And the plugin automatically targets expired transients. This is quantifiable, low-risk bloat removal. The vast majority of the one-click action is dedicated to this kind of non-critical cleanup. The architecture successfully isolates the high-risk, irreversible operations, like the search and replace, into separate, clearly marked advanced toolkits. The simple path is safe and effective for the overwhelming majority of performance issues.
Let's transition then, because even assuming the core database cleanup is safe, the high-impact performance features introduce mandatory external technical burdens that they instantaneously elevate the user profile. This is where the marketing promise completely unravels for me. Consider 2 key features. First, the database query caching, which is marked as high impact. The documentation explicitly states this. Requires an active Redis or memcached instance. This isn't a software feature. It's a server requirement. It assumes the user has the technical sophistication to provision, configure, and maintain a persistent object cache, a fundamental requirement for professional-grade hosting, which is often just unavailable on standard shared hosting. Secondly, look at the server configuration needed for maximum security and caching. While the plugin handles browser caching via .htaccess for users on Apache servers, what happens on an Nginx server?
The user has to manually copy and paste complex configuration blocks into their core server configuration file. This code modifies how the server handles all static assets and security headers, and the manual accompanies this with a critical warning that an incorrect configuration can make the site completely inaccessible. Asking a user to modify their core Nginx config, which is a system administration task entirely outside of WordPress, well, that defines this product as advanced.
I think we need to be precise about the necessity of these features for the core value proposition. You're conflating the ability to achieve maximum edge case performance with the accessibility of core effective maintenance. The plugin is refreshingly transparent about these limitations, and that transparency is key to the justification. The manual explicitly states that all other plugin features, crucially database backup, restore, cleanup, optimization, and the primary high-impact server-side page caching, they all work perfectly on Nginx servers right out of the box. The core value of maintenance and speed is delivered universally. Those detailed Nginx instructions, the appendix on directory protection and browser headers, they're not a required step for core functionality. They are provided as a necessary option for professionals who are seeking absolute maximum security and optimization. For the majority of users on Apache, which is still a huge segment of the WordPress market, the necessary security and caching rules are applied automatically. The complexity is only imposed when the user chooses to pursue that last bit of optimization in the highly technical Nginx environment.
The problem, however, is that security shouldn't be optional when you're dealing with low-level data. The manual states that the custom Nginx configuration for directory protection is essential for security to prevent direct public access to your database backups. So if the Nginx user who paid for the Pro version can't implement this essential security without manually editing server blocks and risking their entire site, then the one-click promise is hollow. They're forced to become a sysadmin to use a security feature that is fundamental to the tool's purpose.
But security is built into the default operation. The backup directories are protected by default using standard WordPress methods, index.php files, and .htaccess rules. Nginx is the known structural outlier that bypasses those standard file security models, which is why manual intervention is required by the server platform. The plugin accurately documents an external challenge. It doesn't create the challenge. It just documents the solution to an operating system limitation.
It is providing the user with a tool that requires specialized knowledge to safely handle a known platform limitation. That puts the burden right back on the user, not the code. Let's dedicate some time to the most potent yet riskiest feature we've touched on, the Optimize Auto-Loaded Options tool. I believe this single feature fundamentally shifts the tool from a general utility to a professional toolkit. While the one-click handles quantifiable bloat, this tool requires informed, subjective judgment.
I disagree that it shifts the utility. It's an advanced feature within a comprehensive suite. The feature set is structured to offer safe default actions while allowing professionals the scalpel, as they call it, for these specialized needs. The database search and replace tool, for example, is correctly marked as a destructive operation that requires a fresh backup. But its existence doesn't invalidate the simplicity of the main maintenance button. The power is partitioned safely.
The problem is the judgment required to use this tool effectively. We established that the purpose is to change data in the WP options table from auto-load yes to auto-load no, meaning that data isn't loaded on every single page request. And the user is guided by a quantitative metric. If the auto-load data size is high, say over a megabyte, they have a performance problem this tool can address. However, resolving that problem requires diagnosing which options are safe to toggle off. While the plugin wisely excludes critical options like site URL and active plugins, it can't possibly predict how every third-party plugin stores its data. Some poorly coded plugins might store huge chunks of essential data using the auto-load flag. If the user blindly relies on that 1 megabyte threshold and converts a necessary option to auto-load no, the plugin relying on that option will break, likely leading to site errors.
The user has to be able to recognize, categorize, and troubleshoot which options belong to which component. This demands a developer-level understanding of the WordPress data storage model.
That informed judgment is precisely why this is labeled as an advanced optimization tool, separate from the primary one-click function. The plugin doesn't mislead the user into thinking this is part of the automated safety routine. The manual explains exactly why the option is there, to reduce memory usage and improve load times. The plugin provides the quantitative indicator, the auto-load data size, that points the expert toward the solution. The core safeguards are handled by excluding essentials. The mere presence of a high-risk option doesn't negate the safety of the main feature set, which is what the marketing promise is. You can schedule the one-click optimization weekly, safely removing revisions and expired transients, and never touch the auto-load tool, and your database will still be dramatically cleaner and faster than before. The plugin offers accessibility first and professional power second.
I think you're defining the easiest, safest subset of the product as the justification for the entire marketing campaign, while ignoring the most complex, high-risk, and ultimately most valuable features of the Pro version. The engineering is brilliant, but it is ultimately just an abstraction layer over a critically sensitive process. The moment that abstraction layer is pierced by a catastrophic rollback failure or the use of an advanced tool, the user is instantly thrust into a professional environment. The tension between the marketing promise of simplicity and the technical reality of what is required to use the product fully is, I think, unavoidable.
I believe the plugin successfully uses its architectural complexity, the chunked backups, the isolated staging, and the atomic restore to create a functional simplicity layer. The complexity is its strength. It ensures that the critical, routine step of database maintenance is accessible and backed by best-in-class recovery protocols. The risk is minimized by design for the average operation, and the high-power features are clearly delineated for the professional who needs them.
While the safety features are technically superb, I agree, the user cannot escape the fundamental high-risk nature of direct database manipulation. The repeated warnings about operations being irreversible, the need to consult a troubleshooting manual for failed rollbacks that require manual phpMyAdmin imports, and the requirement for manual server configuration on NGX for full security. It all proves that this is ultimately a professional-grade power tool. It has to be handled with the informed caution detailed throughout the entire manual, not merely clicked as advertised.
The material clearly shows a tension between the developers, understandable drive for simplicity, and the technical realities of low-level data management. The engineering is trying to shield the user from complexity, but that complexity has a way of asserting itself at the worst possible time.
Right, and the value to the user lies in understanding exactly where that robust safety net ends and where their own technical expertise must begin to handle those inevitable complexities. The compromise here is significant, and the ultimate safety of the system depends on the user's competence when the architecture can no longer hold the line.